Hi there guys, I hope you have had a good day. So now there has been some back and forth between Kell Brook and Eddie Hearn. Not formally, they haven't spoke to one another, but apparently Kell Brook blames Eddie Hearn and Sky Sports for the show not being presented in the UK, although it will do now, but ultimately Kell Brook blamed Eddie Hearn and Sky Sports for not stumping up the money to put on his fight with Terence Crawford in the UK. Obviously he's going over to the US, so that would be in the small hours of the morning in the UK. So they were not willing to stump up that kind of money for this show considering it's at that time in the morning. Now, Kell Brook explained that Eddie Hearn was more interested in book signings and things like that when he should have backed his fighter considering all of what Kell Brook has done for Matchroom and Sky Sports, jumping in to take the Gennady Golovkin fight when he could have just stayed at welterweight and unified against Jesse Vargas or someone like that. So he believes he's presented opportunities for Sky Sports and Eddie Hearn and helped them out, but Eddie Hearn sees it in a different light. This is how he responded to Kell Brook's comments. I was never involved with one conversation they had with Top Rank regarding this fight. No consultation, no opinion from me, no part of the negotiations on the deal whatsoever. They chose to do this all themselves. Was that because they didn't want to pay me or wanted their separate way? Once you turn your back on me, don't ever turn around and start walking back to me. You either want to be with me, or you're not. When I talk about loyalty, I talk about sitting in the hospital with him when he could not make weight against Carson Jones, when he didn't even train, sitting in that hospital with him until 5 or 6 AM, talking about flying out to Fortaventura at 4 AM to go and deal with him, to be with him in that hospital with the police there. So don't talk to me about loyalty and what loyalty is, after I have to give you fights against Jojo Dan, Bizier, Rabchenko, Zarafa and DeLuca, fights I've done my conkers over the years. You made a decision to turn your back on me. I don't have a problem with that, but once you've done that, you're gone. I don't have any more fights for you anymore. Don't come back when things aren't working out, and that's what they did. Oh, and I did really want it for the Sky fans. You wanted the most money you could get? That's the reality. I feel like I have to justify that interview because it was total rubbish. I've saved his career on multiple occasions. Now, undoubtedly, there are times in Kell Brook's career where he hasn't been the most motivated and maybe did need a little bit of a helping hand here and there to get a fight because at times, as I said, he just hasn't been that motivated for the sport of boxing, making weight and all of that. We know that. I mean, as fans of Kell Brook and as fans of boxing, that is not hard to see. But the problem is with this kind of situation is there is always a comeback for the fighter, and that is, I'm the one getting in there and fighting. And that kind of, I mean, it always seems to trump what the promoter or manager or trainer or anyone like that is saying or doing, because they are the ones getting in there putting their lives on the line, but the promoter does stump up the money at times to give them the opportunity. And I'm guessing at times, Eddie Hearn has done that for Kell Brook. He has shown his loyalty to Kell Brook. Brook has also in return for Eddie Hearn, but clearly things have broken down in this instance between Brook and Eddie Hearn, and at this point, it doesn't seem like it's something that's fixable, and it is interesting that Eddie Hearn doesn't want to work with Kell Brook anymore. He says there are no fights for him. He's not going to help him out when things don't go right in Kell Brook's career anymore. Now, that doesn't really sound much like Eddie Hearn. It doesn't. Normally, he would just go back and do a fight with them just because it's business, and that seems to be the way Eddie Hearn has moved throughout his career. Probably the reason why he is so successful, because he just doesn't care. He will work with someone who's previously slagged him off because it's work, it's business. But this seems to cut deeper with Eddie Hearn. That's why he doesn't want to give him a fight. That is probably why he is now closing the door with Kell Brook, because there was a close relationship between the two of them. I'm guessing they were friends at some point, but maybe not anymore. Because it seems like Eddie Hearn no longer wants to work with Kell Brook, and I wouldn't imagine Kell Brook would want to work with Eddie Hearn unless something bad happens, like he doesn't win against Terence Crawford, which is extremely likely because Crawford is a pound for pound top 3. So it's going to be a very difficult night for Kell Brook. If he doesn't win that fight, is it going to be the end of his career? I don't know. I don't know whether Kell Brook will continue or not. He's getting back down to 147, which is very difficult for him, or has been in the past, for whatever reason that is. But he said he's making it easier than ever now. So that does tell you one thing above anything else, which was that he wasn't disciplined earlier on in his career. Imagine if he had that kind of discipline that he has now when he was 30, or in his late 20s. He could have been a machine, but ultimately, that kind of mindset wasn't there at that point. It is there now. And I'm not going to say it's too late because I believe that Kell Brook still has enough left to trouble the big guys. But Terence Crawford is completely another thing entirely. And I don't think this is good for Kell Brook, having this mental back and forth with Eddie Hearn before the biggest fight of his life. It clearly isn't going to be doing him any good. So I don't think it's really wise for Kell Brook to come back on this, and to be honest, in the first place, he didn't really need to say anything, but he felt like he needed to get something like that off of his chest. But at the end of the day, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We know that Kell Brook was with Eddie Hearn for a number of years. We know that he wanted that Terence Crawford fight, and therefore went his own way to get it. Eddie Hearn clearly was displeased about that, not being involved with this fight with Kell Brook, considering all of what he has tried to do for Kell Brook in his career. And it has ended up like this. I mean, it always seems to. When fighters go their own separate ways and go to a different promoter, it seems to end up like that. The tie seems to be cut with that promoter they previously had. And it is rare that a fighter and a promoter are actually friends. You see them laughing and joking and all of that after the fights, before the fights, and anything like that. But it is rare that they are really friends behind the scenes, because when they go their separate ways, that's it. Cut ties completely. So friendship between a fighter and a promoter often isn't real. I do believe this one was, though, between Brook and Eddie Hearn, but clearly that has now come to an end. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks, guys.